Hi guys, it's Trinice, creator and host of True Talks. This is the 4th episode. Today I will talk with Brian from the Nashville Walls Project. So I have a feeling many of you have probably seen their work even if you haven't heard of them. So stay tuned because you'll definitely find this an informative session and you'll know exactly where you can get the latest with the Nashville Walls Project and where you can find some of their artwork here in town. So stay tuned. Well, thank you, Brian, for joining me today.
My pleasure.
Yeah. I wanted to kind of sit down and talk with you because I started noticing different street arts pop up all downtown Nashville as well as like First Tennessee Park. But then once I found out about it, because I kind of skimmed over through Nashville Arts Magazine, they had you all featured in there, I think about a month ago. Yeah. And so I was reading about it and they had a link to you guys' website. Went on there and found that there was a ton of international artists behind these pieces. So my question for you is, how did these connections form?
Well, it really started when I was living in San Francisco. I'd lived in Nashville before and moved to San Francisco, and I've always been involved in art and art projects, and I got to meet a lot of the international street artists when I was living in San Francisco, and ended up helping them on everything from gallery shows and installations to doing walls. And every time I did a wall, whether it was in San Francisco or a project in LA, I always thought this would be really cool in Nashville because someone had lived in Nashville before and I really loved Nashville. Mm-hmm. So I came back to Nashville from San Francisco in April of 2013 just to kind of check things out and saw what was happening in the city and decided, we should do murals in Nashville. So I moved back here in 2014. And that's really how it all started.
Are there any specific things about Nashville that you really felt was a need for maybe street art?
Well, Nashville's a great art city, but it's mostly music. It's mostly that type of art. And there is a strong visual arts component to Nashville, but it didn't really have the mural component to the visual arts side. And that's happening in a lot of major cities now. New York, LA, Miami all have really strong mural programs and visual arts programs, so I just thought that would be a nice add to what was happening here in Nashville.
Now, was the process hard to get that started? Get the permissions from, I guess, businesses?
It was really hard. I spent the first year here in Nashville driving around town, finding a good wall, tracking down who the business owner was, trying to get a meeting with the business owner, and then most of them laughed at me. They're like, we're not going to let you paint on our wall.
Really?
And then I finally met a building owner downtown, a guy by the name of Dan Maddox, who owns the Cornerstone building, and he was phenomenal. He was really the icebreaker for Nashville Walls Project.
Oh, wow.
He said, you can paint whatever you want on any of the walls that I have on the Cornerstone building downtown. Wow. And once that happened, now all of a sudden some of the people that were laughing at us, a year and a half ago are calling saying, hey, can we get a mural still on our building?
Yeah, it's always a dumb idea until someone really sees through with it,
But I get that, It's people when they hear street art, they think of graffiti. They think somebody's going to come tag their building.
See, and I was going to ask you about that. What distinguishes or labels graffiti or street art? Like, what's the difference between that? Because a lot of people, does it just boil down to permission, or is it?
No, they're both.
Else?
They're totally different.
Okay.
If you're a graffiti writer, you come up with a name. Yeah. One of the most famous international graffiti writers is a guy by the name of Revoke. And he's originally from Nashville. And his graffiti name is Revoke, which is R-E-V-O-K. So when he does graffiti, he writes R-E-V-O-K. He'll do it in different font styles, he'll do it in different colors, different sizes, put it in different places. But graffiti writers do their tag. They do Revoke or Risk or Saber.
Okay.
So it's always the same.
The other label,
it's their street name. The other thing about graffiti is one of the great graffiti artists that I've had some contact with over the years, a guy out of LA, said, we don't do what we do for civilians, meaning they don't care what the public thinks.
Wow.
They do what they do to impress other graffiti writers. Street artists don't do the same thing every time. They may have a certain style, but they do art. I mean, they do different figurative work, different geometric work. It changes all the time, and they're doing it for the public. They're not doing it to impress other street artists. They're doing it to impress the public.
And a lot of you guys' work is themed. You know, I saw Mars themes at First Tennessee Park, as I mentioned earlier. And then there's a woman down at Fifth Avenue North that I kind of checked out. I love that one as well. But how do you all determine where to place which mural?
That's really the tricky part, because each artist has a specific type of wall that they like. You know, we had an artist in from Germany named Above, and Above will only work on flat walls, no windows that are vertical. You know, he wants something at least 3 stories tall, at least 35 feet across at the base. Roan, the artist from Australia that did The Woman on Church Street, he likes lots of windows, and he likes kind of messy, beat-up walls. He doesn't want a perfectly flat wall with no windows. So it's a combination of, they all have sizes that they like, they have types of walls that they like. And when we tried to cluster everything downtown in the Arts District, it becomes, you don't want to put things that are too figurative next to each other.
Yeah.
It's almost like when you know, it's almost like kind of being an interior decorator. It's which picture, which painting looks best next to each other. So that's a complicated process, but it just sort of, you work with the artists and you work with the building owners to figure out what's going to work.
And it's typically one artist per wall, or do they all sometimes collaborate on the wall?
They collaborate a lot. In fact, the mural at First Tennessee Park, originally that was supposed to be just Mars 1, and Curiot, who painted one of the murals on the Cornerstone building, when he first arrived here and found out that Mars was painting, he mentioned to me that Mars was his favorite artist.
Wow. And
that they'd never really met or worked together. So I mentioned that to Mars when he arrived, and he said, well, ask him if he'll paint my wall with me. So the mural at First Tennessee Park is actually a collaboration between Mars 1 and Curiot, who'd never worked together before. But the artists now, frequently, I would say almost half the time, are working with another artist.
All right, now I saw where you all have painted murals in like Smyrna as well as Memphis. How often is that opportunity happening for the Nashville group?
Well, we're trying to do more and more of that. You know, the idea behind bringing in all the big international artists was to really open the community's eyes to murals, period, and open up more opportunities for the local artists. And the local artists tell me that they have a lot more opportunities now. They have a lot more people reaching out to them, asking them to do murals since the Walls Project started. And people regularly, you know, 1 or 2 a week will contact me saying, I'd like a mural on my building. And we're a small group. Really, Nashville Walls Project is 3 people. We do this part-time. We don't make any money doing it. And so what we do is we try and collaborate with the wall owner, find them the right local artist, and get them teamed up together, make sure that the artist is getting paid. And then we facilitate the murals. So we're seeing a lot more of it happen, and talking to the local artists, there are a lot more opportunities for them now around Nashville.
Oh wow, even outside of the art shows. So how has that really helped shape what they're trying to do?
Well, one of the things is there's sort of a process. When you first, you know, especially if you're a local artist, when you first go to building owners, they will say, well, I'll let you paint on my building, but I'm going to tell you what to paint.
Yeah.
And after time, when you've done several murals and you have a portfolio, you go to people that own walls, or people that own walls will approach you, and it goes from them saying, I want you to paint this, to I want you to paint whatever you want to paint, do your best work. And so right now we're sort of transitioning from, you know, building owners approaching local artists saying, I want you to paint this, to I really love what you've done, paint whatever you want to paint. So it's an exciting time. Yeah, so it's really, you know, hopefully it's an exciting time. The local artists that we talk to, and I talk to a lot of them on a regular basis, are really excited about what's happening.
Yeah, I'm excited to see more. So what is the latest one right now?
Well, we have an artist coming in from London. He'll be here November 20th. His name is Luis Masai, and he's doing a tour of 10 states around the United States and doing themed murals. He's raising awareness for endangered animals. So he'll be in Nashville November 20th to do a mural on one of the endangered animals for Tennessee, and the animal is the northern flying squirrel.
Never heard of it. Never heard of it.
That may be why it's endangered.
Yeah, see, yeah, that too. But
and then, you know, that, and we're working on a series of murals for local artists, and then in April we'll repeat what we did last year in the spring. We currently have 4 international artists confirmed to come to Nashville to paint large walls again
so
downtown
cool.
in April.
That is so cool. I can't wait to really see those, because when I first crossed, I think the first one I saw was at the Tennessee State Park, and I thought, who is this, you know? And I think it's cool that we're collaborating outside of Nashville, you know, and hitting other places.
Yeah, the other thing too is when the international artists come into town, they work with assistants, and in a lot of cases they want to bring their assistants with them. When Harakoot, the duo from Germany that painted the dog on Fifth Avenue, came in, originally they were going to bring their assistant from Berlin, and luckily they decided not to bring their assistant in. They wanted to use local artists, and we pay the local artists. We pay, depending on what they're doing, $15 to $20 an hour to work with these international artists, and it's a great experience for the local artists to be able to work on a large scale and actually help these artists paint their murals.
That's pretty awesome. And how long does it typically take one artist to finish a mural?
Not as long as people think. You know, I'll show people photos of the Harakoot mural and say, you know, ask them how long do you think it took to paint that. I did a talk yesterday, and the guess was that it took a month, and it took Harakoot 3 days to do that painting.
Really?
It took Roan probably was the longest because of the detail and the size of that wall. It took him 5 days to finish that wall, but most of the murals were 2 days, 3 days, 5 days max.
Skills.
Well, they do it all over the world. I mean, the artists that came in, for the most part, every one of them has painted on every continent in the world, with the exception of Antarctica. They've all painted in Asia, Europe, Africa. They painted in the Middle East. Harakoot's painted in Nepal.
Many have been
Latin
doing
America.
this for a long time.
They've
Knock it out in 3 and 5 days.
A lot of them have been at this. Niels Muehlman, who did the Johnny Cash lyrics downtown, was a graffiti writer back in the 70s. You know, he's been doing it for 30 plus years.
That's pretty awesome. So where can people find out more information about you all?
The 2 best places are our website, NashvilleWallsProject.com. And then one of the questions I get a lot is, how do we know when people are painting and what's going on? And the best place to get the most current information is on our Facebook page, Nashville Walls Project on Facebook. We post any new developments, artists coming in, when people are going to paint, that sort of thing. We post that regularly on the Facebook page.
Awesome. Well, again, I'd like to thank you for coming out with me.
My pleasure.
It's been truly a pleasure speaking with you.
Nice to meet you.
I feel like I've learned so much. Yes, nice to meet you too. I feel like I've learned so much, because oftentimes people pass up the murals and they think, oh, that's cool, but they don't know who's behind it. So that was basically what this is all about, informing people and also getting the information out there so they can stay up on it. So thank you.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.